Thank you for choosing Bobcat Bicycles. Your new bike has already been professionally built, tuned, and packed by our staff, so this video will simply walk you through the steps to assemble your bike out of the shipping box. If you have any questions during this process, give us a call or reach out to us online and we'll be happy to help. The first step is to inspect the box for any shipping damage. Take photos and contact us immediately if you notice any damage to the box. Carefully open the shipping box and begin by removing the bicycle seat post and discarding the packing material. Then carefully insert the seat post into the bicycle frame, taking care to insert it below the minimum insertion line printed on the post. Then adjust the tension on the quick release seat post collar and clamp it down using enough force that it requires the palm of your hand to secure it. Remove everything from the shipping box and place the bike in an area where you have plenty of working room to continue the assembly. Carefully remove all of the packing material from the bicycle. Be careful not to scratch the bike, the wheels, or to cut any wires or components while removing the packing material. Open up the box of included tools where you'll find your torque wrench with interchangeable bits, a small bag of bicycle grease, and a shock pump if your bike has air suspension. The interchangeable bits on the torque wrench can easily be swapped, and you'll have everything you need here in order to complete your bicycle assembly. When using the torque wrench, just apply pressure until you see the wrench flex onto the scale, telling you how many Newton meters of force you're applying. Next, take your 4mm hex bit and loosen and remove the 4 bolts that attach the faceplate to the stem. These 4 bolts must be completely removed along with the faceplate in order to install the handlebars. Attach the handlebar by placing it into the open stem and make sure that it's centered by using the alignment guide printed on the handlebar. Then reattach the stem faceplate and reinsert the 4 bolts that were removed. As you're reinserting the 4 faceplate bolts, make sure you do so in an X pattern. Start at one corner, then do the next bolt at the opposite corner, and so on until they're all just finger tight and snug. If your bike has a stem labeled no gap as pictured here, tighten down the top 2 bolts first all the way so there's no gap left, then tighten down the bottom 2 bolts, leaving a gap as indicated on the stem. Once you're satisfied with the placement of the handlebar, then use that 4mm hex bit to tighten those bolts down to the torque rating that is printed on the stem or on the faceplate. The next step is to insert the front wheel. To make this easier, we'll turn the bike upside down by resting it on the saddle and the handlebars. Locate the quick release skewer and unthread the nut and remove the cone spring. Insert the quick release skewer through the hub of the front wheel and reinstall the cone spring with the narrow end facing in towards the wheel, then rethread on the nut. Remove the block from the front brake and do not squeeze the brake lever until the wheel is installed. Take the front wheel and align both the axle with the dropouts on the fork and the brake rotor with the caliper. Once it's in place, twist down the nut and close the quick release skewer so that it requires enough force to use the palm of your hand. It should be strong enough to leave a slight imprint on your palm after you've got it properly tightened down. If your bike is equipped with a through axle, use your hex bit to back the through axle out of the fork, then take the front wheel and align the axle in the fork and the brake rotor in the caliper. Then reinsert that through axle and tighten it back down to the printed torque spec. After completely tightening the through axle, then tighten the pinch bolt to secure it in place. If your bike has a through axle that functions differently than this, or if it's not clear exactly how it works, just give us a call and we'll be happy to walk you through the specifics of your bike. Next, we'll spin on the pedals. Take the small bag of included grease and apply just a dab to the tip of your finger. Then you'll smear this on to the pedal threads, providing a thin, even coating all the way around. Start with the drive side or right side pedal labeled with the letter R and begin by spinning it onto the cranks by spinning the cranks backwards or counterclockwise. This should not engage the wheel. If it does engage the wheel, turn the cranks the other way. Get that pedal on there just hand tight, then grab your 6mm hex bit and tighten down the pedal from the inside of the crank arm. We're going to mirror this process for the other pedal marked left for the non-drive side of the bike. This pedal is reverse threaded, so it must be spun counterclockwise to tighten. Spin those cranks clockwise or backwards to tighten the pedal. The cranks should not engage the wheel. Get that pedal on there hand tight and finish it up with your torque wrench on the inside of the spindle. If your bike does not have a rear shock or an air front fork, then your assembly is now complete. Just flip that bike back over and use the quick release lever to adjust the seat height to where it's comfortable for you. If your bike has adjustable air suspension, here's where we'll show you how to set it up. But if you supplied your weight to us before we shipped the bike to you, then we've already set the suspension for your weight. Unthread the cap on the side with the air valve and thread on the shock pump to it. There are two stages to the shock pump. First, it must be threaded down onto the valve, then locked in place. This will then display the shock's current pressure rating on the gauge. After you've added or subtracted pressure from the shock, remove the locking stage, and then press the little button on the pump to clear any pressure left in the hose, then disconnect it from the valve, and take care to put that cap back on the fork to cover and protect the valve. The process is the same for the rear shock. You'll find the valve cap on there, unthread it to expose the valve, and connect your shock pump, following the same exact steps as the fork. Connect the first stage, lock it in place, check the pressure gauge reading, and add or subtract pressure as necessary. Performing these steps in reverse will seal that shock back up. Thanks again for choosing Bobcat Bicycles, and don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback you might have. We're here to make sure your next ride is always your best ride.